Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we use the same gag again to keep production costs down. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with ya. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including the announcement of an official Smash Brothers fighting tournament. And then on Thursday, we are planning a Thanksgiving menu using Nintendo franchises. Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Patrick.
Yes.
What's cooler than being cool?
I'd be an ice cold.
Yes. I have just been thinking about Hey Ya and about Outcast. And what a good song and album that was.
Yeah. I mean, Hey Ya's a great song. And Speaker Box and Love Below, great double record.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's Happy Valentine's Day.
I mean, there's really I
There are
don't
no
have
bad tracks,
I don't
yeah.
have anything to follow that up with. Like I have no stunning insights
Right.
into the career of Outkast. Just that's some solid music.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And it is perhaps a weird thing for you and I to be saying like 25 years after
Well, okay.
the records came out.
I'll tell you. Well, first of all, we've never talked about it on the show.
Great
so
point.
important to get it on the record.
Right.
And two,
You know, we have not been entering things in the official record for a while,
I know,
so I'm going to get
it's
out the
worrying.
book. Right.
Yeah. Get out the book,
Right.
write it down with the official quill. The thing that made me think of it is before we started recording just now, when we were testing the mics, you were going like, all right.
Yeah. Hey, fellas.
Exactly.
Right. And what a video. My God, what a video.
I mean, the perfect song and the perfect video. I think culture peaked with Hey Ya.
Yeah, Culture has peaked twice. Once with Thriller, and then again with Hey Ya. Mark, sorry. Culture also peaked a third time with Sonic Forces. Would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch? You certainly can get on the list to do that. All you got to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address so we can send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you want. Or you don't play it. It doesn't really matter what you do with it while it's there. You send it back. I pay for postage both ways. It's a
Can you
perfect
believe
program.
it?
No,
It's the perfect program.
I don't believe it.
And we're the ones that instated it. It doesn't feel like something that we did at this point. It just feels like inertia. The world
That's right.
spins round,
Mhm.
and the Sonic Forces borrowing program has always existed because it is the perfect program.
Right. Also, there might be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in there instead of Sonic Forces, but what are you going to do?
Well, one thing you could do is you could leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And here this week is a great example of what we mean by wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, that's right.
Because every week we say thank you so much to everybody who reviews us. And by me, like, framing it this way, I am both fulfilling the obligation of saying it, but also reminding people of what I say.
There we go. Yeah.
So every week,
I follow you.
every week we say thank you so much, to everybody who reviews us or who shares the show any way that you can, including on Twitter or word of mouth. And so thank you this week to Retro Inebriate for giving us a shout out on Twitter, a recommendation on Twitter. They posted a tweet saying Patrick and Mark rank every cartridge, in quotes, a very important scare quotes,
Very important.
that
scare
Nintendo
quotes.
has ever made. I might not agree with the order, but it's a must listen for any collector enthusiast of Nintendo. Thank you so much, Retro Inebriate. If you leave us a review or promote us somewhere that is not the US Apple Podcast Store, we still want to give you a shout out. So please let us know. Add us on Twitter or send us an email, and you'll get a shout out.
Along those lines, we also got a shout out from the at Nintendo Pals on Twitter regarding our cartridge ranking episode, saying, love this episode. Something y'all didn't mention, and I think may change the list, is how good the Wii U disc edges feel. The round edges were unlike any other disc for any system or platform. Oddly satisfying. Haha. they were also much more scratch resistant than other Wii discs. Mark, so we read this tweet and we're like, is that true?
Right.
Went over to my bookshelf, got some Wii U discs off the bookshelf, and touched them. Compared to Wii discs to PlayStation 4 discs, and sure enough, they are like flat and round or thick. I don't.
Yeah, it's almost like the edges of it, they like bevel up a little bit. They have like a little lip.
Yeah.
To me, it's like the lip of a plastic, like a clear plastic cup. There's
Yeah.
like a tiny little like lip on it, and it is very satisfying.
Oh, and especially when compared to other discs, because like when you compare it to another disc, you're like, oh, this other disc is sharp. This
Right.
is like I just opened a can with a can opener, right? And I'm like handling the lid of this can with sharp edges. No sharp edges on these Wii U discs.
No, so there was like, and we credited the the Switch game carts
Yeah, you're right.
for
You got there.
for having like the coating on them so children don't eat them. And
And adults,
I
whoever.
oh, sure, you're right. Who am I to say?
Right.
But the Wii U discs, I wonder if there was some sort of like committee that was like, we need to make these dull. We need
Right.
to make these
People have been
not.
scratching themselves.
Uh-huh.
It's a real issue.
Yep.
Well, and look, if that was a real issue, I would say they addressed it. I'm not ready to go back and change our ranking.
I don't think so either.
But it's a good point.
Also interesting to note that the Wii and the PlayStation 4 also had a different feel.
Yeah.
Like the PlayStation 4 was like in between a little bit. It had a little bit of a lip, but not as much as the Wii U. I just assumed all disc edges felt the same. I think I'm going to become that person that I'm going to go into, like, if I am in somebody's home.
And you're just going to say, can I touch your disc
Can
edges?
I touch your disc edges? It's going to be like, they're going to like go to the kitchen, excuse themselves to the kitchen to like get a drink or something. They're going
Right.
to come back and I'm just like
All the
rummaging through
cases
there.
are going to be open. Discs are going to be all
That's
over
just
the
who
place.
I am now.
Yeah.
And I blame it on
that
the
makes
Nintendo
sense.
pals,
Look,
which thank you for bringing this into my
it's
life.
a curiosity you need to satisfy.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very strange. It makes me wonder what PlayStation 5 discs feel like.
Oh my gosh.
What Xbox discs feel
What do
like.
original PlayStation? Because now I have a theory
Yeah.
that like all CDs, like audio CDs,
Yeah.
felt the same.
Mm-hmm.
All DVDs feel the same, which is why the Wii feels different from like the Blu-rays of both the PlayStation 4 and the Wii U.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I think I agree with this, but it also may come down to like electronics manufacturers too. Like all Sony CDs may feel the same as like PlayStation games.
The tips of my fingers are
I
tingling.
know. I just want
need
to. It's
feel
a tactile. We are flexing our fingers like madmen over here. Invite us over to your house so we can touch all of your disc edges. Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week.
Let it never be said that we don't do research on this show, because for 2 weeks I did not know the name of the like 2 people that are on my island in Animal Crossing New Horizons.
This is what we're counting as research.
Just didn't bother to
Okay.
learn
All right.
them.
All right.
And which is sadly something that I'm very guilty of, like in real life as well. Like if somebody introduces themselves to me and I'm like, I do not think I will ever meet you again, I immediately am just like, I don't even clock it. You know what I mean?
You ever meet someone at the beginning of a night and then like run into them later that night and introduce yourself?
Yeah, it's mortifying.
It's because they will not let you live it down. It's horrifying.
All of this is to say that I now know the names of the 3 villagers on my island.
Yes.
So the jock rhino, his name is Tank. Fitting.
Right. Named after, of course, the character from The Matrix.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brother of Dozer.
Uh-huh.
One of the people born in the real world, has never been plugged into the Matrix.
I'm so excited for this 4th movie. I cannot even tell you. So Tank, the jock rhino.
Mhm.
Up next is Flo. She's the penguin. I had to look up what her deal is because and this is not a slight against Flo, she's very nice, but she doesn't have much of a personality. So I'm
Yes.
like, what is her personality trait? According to a wiki that I looked this up on, it's sisterly.
Okay, so the sisterly personality type is sort of like the like female catch-all, or it feels like the female catch-all to me, where like almost the equivalent of lazy on the masculine side.
Oh, got it.
That like lazy is just like they're just like chill and kind of nice.
Uh-huh.
But like may annoy some of the more like type A or jocks or whatever on
Yeah.
your island.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Finally, I invited what I thought was the devil incarnate.
Right.
Um,
Lucifer himself.
This demon ram that I encountered on my, like Dodo Airlines getaway trip, and wearing this like cloak, which apparently is a graduation gown, raises more
Oh.
questions than it answers. But anyways, thank you to at Pray for Mojo on Twitter, who let me know that this is rodeo and is not in fact a demon ram, but is a lazy bull, apparently.
A bull.
Yeah.
Because I was looking up ram, I was looking up goat.
I
I
mean-
wanted to see this demon.
Yeah, to be fair, that's what I was feeding you because I for sure
No,
thought it was
I
some
blame
sort
you.
of- yeah. Okay, good. Anyways, it's rodeo. I'm
Yeah.
very excited for rodeo to be coming to my island soon. I'm slowly but surely making a little bit of progress. So there were so many steps in the early going of Animal Crossing New Horizons that I totally forgot about.
Yeah.
And now that I'm encountering it again, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Like I built a bridge because you have your first 2 villagers, but then to get more villagers, you have to like build a bridge. Then after you build a bridge, you have to place their 3 houses. Then after you place 3 houses, you have to build like 3 interior items. You have to craft 3 interior items for each, and then 3 exterior items that you just like
Leave
around
nearby.
there.
Yeah.
So I have done that. So now I believe when I go back into the game, either later tonight or whenever I next have a chance to play, that I will now have 5 villagers in total on my island. Red came by for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff I forgot about.
Well,
where
because red wasn't added until later in the game.
So
yeah.
now, like, oh, this is in game. Like I've visited a total of maybe like 6 times.
Yeah.
And he's already there. Mabel is there. Or has come by.
Yeah.
For clothes. And when can I swim? Is that just a summer thing? Because I had already nuked. Because one thing that Pray for Mojo pointed out was that in theory, it might be possible for me to recover my nuked island if I had uploaded it to the cloud. But I am almost 100, and I've thought like, oh, maybe I did do that, but I forgot that was added later,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure I'd already nuked my island by the time that like summer update or whatever came around. But I also learned that I thought that I would have to get like 3 stars and have KK Slider come to my island before I could get to Happy Home Paradise. But that is apparently, from what I read online, not the case. It is, I think that all I have to do is get resident services. So you go from
That's
like the
not so
tent
bad.
to
Yeah.
having like the permanent resident services building. And I think I'm pretty close to that. I think
I would think
like,
as soon as you get all the other residents on the island, that then resident services would. You just need to like give them some wood and iron and whatever.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And so I might be closer than I think I am. So last week I was really like conflicted on how I was feeling about this game. One thing that's nice is that I have been going back maybe like once every 3 days or so, and my villagers aren't like super upset at me, and the whole thing isn't like covered in weeds.
Right.
And so that was my fear the original time I played, was like, I got to do this every day or like my island is going to fail. And it's much more forgiving than that, which makes it much less stressful to play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is some world in which they expect you to play Animal Crossing every day, but like they obviously just expect you to like revisit a couple times a week.
Yeah.
So you have not been able to access Happy Home Paradise.
No, but I think I'm really close, which
Okay.
I'm very excited about.
I gotta tell you, I have not really played much of it, but I watched Sarah play like a ton of it. And the things that she is able to do and the abilities that the game like just so gradually unlocks for you is so cool. And like she just made some really cool houses. Like she started making characters roommates with each other. So there was this dog Walker who wanted a place to show off his bike, and a duck named Drake who just likes bread. Which is great because he's a duck. Of course, a duck just likes bread. So they're roommates. And so she made like 2 little rooms for them using partitions and like one thing. And so like that's all super cool. One of them has bikes hanging on the wall. The other one has like a slice of pie on the nightstand. But she just unlocked the ability to do 2-story vacation homes, which basically means doing a vacation home with 2 rooms in it. So like. And that's not something I remember seeing in the
I didn't know you
direct
could
about
do that.
it. Which it stands to reason there are features in the game that they didn't show off in the direct. Duh, Patrick. But it's cool that seems like such a big improvement. That like it makes me wonder what all you can do in Happy Home Paradise. It truly may be like the sky is the limit, and I'm sure there are people online that have been playing the heck out of it and have discovered everything. But it just seems like there's an awful lot of there, and I know I've said that before about Happy Home Paradise, but it is like legit its own game experience.
I've also played a little bit more of Kirby Superstar, refreshing myself before I went on Connor McCabe's show, friend of the show, previous guest Connor McCabe, his podcast, which everybody should check out, Call Me By Your Game. Patrick has been on it before. I am on this week's episode, which I believe is releasing tomorrow, Wednesday, and we talk about Kirby Superstar, so check that out if you're interested.
Yeah, and you can go back into the archives and find my episode about Dead Rising. I took the opportunity to not talk about a Nintendo game. I like that you were like, no, still Nintendo game.
And then finally, I've been slowly making my way through Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I am in the Ancient Cistern right now. I've made my way through it. I'm just at the final boss. The item in this dungeon is the whip, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, the boss I think is really cool. It has like multiple arms with swords and stuff, and it will randomly like block a certain like all but one direction that you have to hit, and then sometimes it's arm. Oh no! Sorry, that was the mini boss. That would block in certain ways. This one is just like throwing these like boomerang type things around.
Yeah, when it'll like take these swings with like all of its arms at once, and then you have to like disconnect
you have to,
various
whip
arms.
It. Yeah, with the whip. The mini boss, the one that would block all but one direction, I admit to like it took me like 3 tries, because anytime that this game requires me to use precision with the motion controls,
yes,
I struggle with it because
you don't normally do it.
No, that is not how I've been playing this game at all. And so like 3 times, not that bad. Like, like you die, you start right back where you were. Like, it's really not that big of a deal. But I actually think it's a virtue that you can get as far as you can in the game without like really requiring precision motion controls, because when it does, I don't really enjoy it that much, because that's just not how I play this game.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting, because like anytime I encounter a moblin that has the like electric sword, I feel like I have to be precise, otherwise I'm gonna end up just hitting that sword.
Yeah, see, that's so. I mean, and this is actually true of how I play like most games, like Bloodborne and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Where I am not super strategic. I am like I play as a tank, where it's just like, yeah, I know I'm gonna take hits, but in Zelda I'll just get the hearts back.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that bad, and so it's like I'm totally am gonna get electrocuted by that moblin's like electric staff, but I'm just gonna kill it. It's less work for me than trying to do like a precise hit.
I go for the precise hits, but it's also been a little bit since I played. So, Mark, I have not really been playing too much Nintendo stuff lately, because I'm still sort of enamored with my PlayStation 5, and making my way through and to the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which by the end of it, I absolutely loved. I know that there was a period where I was like, this game is like melodramatic and stupid. I think the presentation aspects of it are bad. I still think a lot of that is true, but the middle of the game is so like good and emotionally like resonant for me that it makes me forgive all the other sins of it. And I'm in the part now where I'm going back through all of the chapters and clearing them on hard difficulty, and like I'm just maxing everything out now. Like I had a good enough time with the game that I kind of want to, at least at this point, get everything. I'm sure I will reach a point where getting everything becomes an obnoxious chore, and then I don't ever play it again. But as of right now, I'm really enjoying Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it seems like a kind of huge bummer that that's a game that will never come to Switch. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's just too graphically demanding.
But maybe it'll come. Maybe like with the Switch, we saw a lot of like PlayStation 4 games. Like that sort of era was finally available on Switch. Maybe whatever the next generation of Switch looks like, we'll get some of these back ports.
Yeah, I mean it was a PlayStation 4 game originally, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, and I like it. I guess it is possible that like it would come someday. It hasn't even come to Xbox yet, right? So like obviously Sony threw some kind of money at to have like the exclusivity.
I forgot that it didn't come to Xbox.
It's weird, right?
Exclusive, yeah.
And maybe PC. I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't actually know. But yeah, it's a really cool game, and like a sort of like an entry in the Final Fantasy like mainline canon as far as I'm concerned. And it would just be cool to see it come to the other platforms. Even Switch, running at like whatever reduced fidelity. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I think someday I'd like to play it. I don't know when I would have the time, but like it does seem very appealing. Yeah, I mean, I just think it'd be fun to experience.
Yeah, remind me your experience with Final Fantasy VII.
So I played Final Fantasy VII late. It was like the Wii Xbox 360 era. I was the first time like my friend let me borrow his PlayStation 2, and so I just went back and played like a ton of PSX and PS2 games. So that's when I played Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9. Like all of that was in that period where I was like, that was a lot of fun to go and like experience all of those games for the first time.
It's so incredible the way Final Fantasy VII Remake drills in on the first like 6 or 7 hours of Final Fantasy VII and blows every single detail up into like an entire, and like sometimes it's annoying, right? Where it's like in the original game, I fought this thing that was a random encounter. Now there's like a whole story beat about it. And like it's interesting to be so maniacally focused on the thing. And it makes me wish that there were like other remakes like this that really went in and were like, oh yeah, here's one like little mechanic or one little enemy that looks strange. And let's just explore that forever until like its logical end and you can no longer explore it anymore in the form of a game. There's something like celebratory and like lively about it. I think it's really remarkable. All right, so that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
It's Thanksgiving week in the States, and so a slow time for new releases. There's nothing really on the list that I wanted to specifically call out.
Yeah, me neither. So I know that there are a lot of big sales coming around for on the Nintendo eShop and like in other retailers, seeing Nintendo first party games go to like a third off or even up to like a half off or anything like that. We don't have any of those specifics in front of us, but just sort of like be attuned to it. Because games that never go on sale are going on sale.
For new releases, do you want to just randomly pick a couple and we'll
go
back and forth?
Yep. I'm going to go with coming out today, November 23rd, My Universe, Puppies and Kittens.
That sounds nice.
Let me ask you this. Why not Puppies and Kitties?
Oh, interesting.
Puppies and Kittens.
Puppies and Kitties.
Yeah.
I feel like Kitties is a little too cutesy.
Okay, but just because there is no like ultra cute version of puppies,
yeah,
puppies is just what they're called,
right?
That's fair enough. Good note.
On November 25th, on Thursday, Arcade Archives Phozon is released. don't know what that is.
Hold on a minute. Death's Door is coming out today. Death's Door is like a overhead hack and slash. Like you play as a crow. Looks pretty cool. That's a game I'm actually interested in.
All right. Hey, we found one.
We found one.
And then on Friday, November 26th, Date Night Bowling is released.
All right, Mark. Let's close out the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers did not play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, this week's topic is a solid icebreaker question. If an alien offered to take you to their planet, but you couldn't return to Earth, would you go?
I think first things first.
Yeah.
Patrick, do you think that there are extraterrestrials out there?
Great question, Mark. I think I gotta differ to my boy Enrico Fermi. That probably, and they're probably among us, but also that's such a vanishing small thing that we would actually experience that. So yes, I guess I believe that they exist in some form.
Yeah, I think so. I think the universe is so vast that it just feels really unlikely.
Yes.
That ours is the only planet that has life on it.
And it may be something totally unrecognizable as life.
I would kind of assume it was.
Yeah. That even if there are alien life forms on this planet, they may not exist in the same physical space as we do.
Mm-hmm.
We can only perceive so many dimensions. And this is one of the reasons why gravity isn't stronger. Is that this is the string theory of physics that there are forces that gravity is asserting in dimensions we can't perceive.
So cool.
And again, look, this is just like the thing the other day. If we're messing anything up,
look, it took me
leave us
3
alone.
weeks to get the name of my Animal Crossing villagers. You think we're gonna master string theory? No thanks.
No, absolutely not. Look, we talked about it in one physics class once, and I was like, "That's cool," and then I've misunderstood it the rest of my life. Mark, I feel like the easy answer to this question is no, absolutely not.
Okay, I agree that is the easy answer, especially given our circumstances where we have significant others.
Right.
We have what I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if you were to say yes to this answer, what's stopping you from nuking your life right now and going to live in a different country?
Well, I feel like this is. I feel like it's different.
Okay.
I don't feel like it's the same.
I feel like you have to be open to such a huge amount of adventure.
I think totally.
To decide I'm going to live with aliens now. Have you met an alien? No. You haven't even met these people and you're going to live with them? It's insanity.
Yeah, it is. I mean, isn't that what happens at the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind? I guess spoiler for a 40-year-old movie.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. I mean, he does also
Richard
have
Dreyfuss.
an experience with them first, right? They kidnap him, right?
No, I don't think so. They buzz his car essentially.
Okay. I'm thinking of Fire in the Sky. I'm thinking of Fire in the Sky.
I think you might be thinking of Fire in the Sky. So I think the answer is no. But wouldn't you at least be tempted? Because what if they're what if the alien comes down and they're we will share our knowledge with one person. That person is Patrick Ellers.
Right. They talk to the president of Earth.
The president of Earth.
Right. And they're
yeah. We will share this with Patrick Ellers. Patrick Ellers can, but Patrick will never be able to come back. But he will be a human being who is able to experience Earth. Would you be our existence? Would you be tempted?
Yeah, well, so that's different because it feels like there's purpose behind it. I think it is possible that it's just the way this question is phrased that makes it sound ridiculous to me. If an alien offered, which makes it sound to be
hey, you want to come back?
Hey, we're going to Mars. You want to go to Mars?
Yeah, we can't promise you right back, bro.
We're oh, geez. Okay, well, how can I get in there? You can't get back. And
right.
can I call Elon Musk? And they're no.
Okay, what if we change it a little bit? You could get back. They're just not offering you a ride. So if you
Okay,
can figure
sure.
out a way back, then you can come back.
No, I mean still probably no.
Yeah,
Because
I think
I guess we will never know. We were accompanied today by pianist Kyle Shaw. Mark, let's get into the news.
Nintendo has had a somewhat fraught relationship with the fighting game tournament community as of late. Last year, they shut down multiple events that intended to host like Super Smash Bros. Melee online tournaments. Reminder that like Super Smash Bros. Melee is the GameCube game, so there was no online component, but it has been modded into it, and people would try, especially during the pandemic, try hosting these online tournaments, and Nintendo was consistently asking them not to use the game.
Yeah, well, and not use the modded version of the game, which is not just the online mods. There are like other balancing issues.
That's
and
right.
Stuff.
That's right.
So like they're fundamentally not playing Super Smash Bros. Melee, but like also are. So like yeah, we it's obviously a sticky situation there.
But this past week, Nintendo and Panda Global announced the first officially licensed Smash Bros. Circuit in North America, which will start in 2022. Both Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Super Smash Bros. Melee will be featured. It includes virtual and in-person qualifying events, assuming conditions are safe for in-person.
Mm-hmm.
But their virtual qualifying events, how do you think that works for Super Smash Bros. Melee?
Yeah, it's a great question because there currently is no way to play Melee without playing a modded version of the game.
I could be wrong. I hate saying those words, but it is possible that Super Smash Bros. Melee had like the Ethernet kind of like LAN connection that you could do for like Mario Kart Double Dash.
Right, but even that's just a LAN connection, right?
Right, but I don't know if there's like some ways to like take that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Players in Canada and Mexico, they're saying would be able to enter and compete in this tournament once international travel is deemed safe by Nintendo. Additional details will be announced in the future. I don't know. I think this is Nintendo kind of like stepping up to the plate here.
I would say kind of, just because we don't have all the details here yet. So it's possible that the virtual and in-person qualifying events means virtual for Ultimate and
that's a good
virtual
point.
And in-person for, or no, only in-person for Melee.
That's a good point. So like if the in-person pieces of it can't happen because of COVID or I guess any other reason, that maybe it would just become an Ultimate tournament that has online play. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also just a. I mean, I personally think it's a little strange that they would be hosting qualifying events virtually even for Ultimate. Like the connection is never really so stable that it seems like a good venue for competitive play, right?
I have not played Ultimate online for a very, very long time. When the game like first came out and I was playing with the Ethernet adapter for my Switch, my memory is that it was okay, but I was never playing in like a competitive environment where like input precision mattered, and so maybe at that level it's difficult for me to imagine that the online would hold up for that.
Yeah, it's just, I mean,
but they must have been, but people had to have been doing online Ultimate tournaments.
Yeah, I guess they must have. Yeah,
at least during the pandemic. So I feel like it must
be good enough, or at least people are putting up with it.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, online play in the fighting game community is obviously so like necessary, but it's weird how few games have really like cracked it, and how even like the heavy hitters like Smash and like Street Fighter are not. They're not leading the way in that. Like they're leaving it to the smaller games, and like King of Fighters and stuff, to have the sort of like rollback netcode that makes it snappy enough to actually play these games competitively online.
So yeah, that's a great point, Patrick. That we should wait and see exactly what this is. But I think it's interesting that Nintendo is entering this space in an unofficial capacity.
Yeah, well, and this is also something that we kind of saw coming when like Evo imploded over like abuse allegations within the communities, and particularly in the Smash community, that like that Nintendo was like, all right, no more events without our adults in the room. And so it's nice that they're like, and now here are our adults. We are ready to administer these tournaments.
Yeah. And they already do it they've, done it for Splatoon for a long while. They've done it for Pokemon for a long while. So it was always kind of interesting to me that they were not interested in doing it for Smash Brothers seemingly.
Well, I mean, the thing about that is that the like competitive fighting game community was already built up on its own, right? Like that's why Evo became like the only game in town. And the fact that there was like rot within Evo, because it didn't come from any like, I'm going to keep saying like the grown-ups in the room, right? Like that there were no grown-ups in the room
basically
at Evo.
Like corporate entities whose
bottom line could be affected by someone else's poor behavior. And obviously that did happen with Evo in that they got shut down. They don't exist. Although PlayStation bought them. So
PlayStation.
I don't know.
But again, one of those like quote unquote adults stepped up. Yeah, to fill that void. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit received a major new update with version 2.0. So players can now connect 2 carts to one Switch. This is the like augmented reality Mario Kart game that came out last year. Players can connect 2 carts to one Switch system and play in split screen for the first time. You can play any Grand Prix Cup with 2 to 4 players in relay race multiplayer. And Luigi Cup has been added with 3 new tracks where you can unlock the Poltergust G00 cart and the Spooky Horn, which I am very enamored with.
What do you think a spooky horn sounds like?
I don't know. Do you think it's like a wooga?
That's remarkable, Mark. I don't think we need to hear any other pitches on that. Let me ask you, have you heard or been like party to anyone talking about Mario Kart Live?
No, I would be very curious to know how it did. I don't know anybody who owns it. I don't think. If I do, let me know. I would love to check it out.
Yeah, we would love to know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just so far outside of like what our experiences of, living in Los Angeles apartments and houses, that like it just doesn't. I don't know where you would set it up.
Yeah, I haven't even really like considered it, and also it seems like something that I would want to play once, but I just can't imagine wanting to play it enough that I would want to buy it because they're not cheap.
No, they're like $100, right?
Right.
And there was some sale recently where they were cut down to like $60, and even that, like, I don't know, you gotta store that cart somewhere.
I know.
And like all the stuff to like make the track, like, I've got 2 boxes of like completed Labo above my refrigerator right now, and like every time I dust them, which is a lot because they get dusty, I'm like, why do I still have these? But also, what's the alternative? Do I just throw them away?
Right.
Like what? Yeah. And if I had the Mario Kart Live remote control car, it would be the same thing.
Yeah. And so don't get me wrong, I am curious to check it out, and I think it could be very fun. It just doesn't fit with my life.
Yeah. Yep.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land, the new Kirby game revealed at the last Nintendo Direct, has been rated by the ESRB. It's
M?
Yeah, that's right. AO, adults only. It's E10+. And as part of the rating process, we got a new description of the game.
I love this. I love taking all of the tiniest clues to be like, let's talk about what this Kirby game is.
This is, I am now reading the description. This is an action-adventure game in which players help Kirby save kidnapped creatures from evil forces. Players traverse 3D platforms while collecting coins, solving puzzles, and using Kirby's abilities to battle cartoony enemies, e.g. mushrooms, foxes, giant turtles. Patrick, stop me if anytime there's anything specifically you want to talk about.
Yeah, we'll do.
Players use swords, bombs, and blaster-type pistols to defeat enemies. Some weapons allow players to use targeting slash crosshairs for ranged firing. Boss battles can be frenetic, with laser fire, explosions, and projectiles flying at Kirby, often from a close-up perspective.
So no mention of like eldritch horrors or like cosmic brains that
Yes.
Kirby has to fight. Though we know they're in there.
Absolutely.
It's a Kirby game.
There's going to be some dimensional rift.
Yes.
And the final boss will be some like horrific, unspeakable terror from another dimension.
Right.
Offering us a ride to a planet, which we will decline because we're like, how are we going to get back?
And we're like, look, I got work on Monday, so I can't possibly go with you. Yeah, I feel like we don't get too much really from this description here. Even saying like players use swords, bombs, and blaster type pistols, that's consistent with like all Kirby games,
Kirby
right?
like copy abilities. For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So I wonder like how much of that is that. The enemy types, mushrooms, foxes, and giant turtles also seems kind of consistent with what I expect of Kirby. I guess neat that they call out specifically giant turtles.
Right.
How big are these turtles, Mark?
Oh man, I can't wait to find out. What do you think of collecting coins, which is not really like a mechanic that I associate with Kirby?
Yeah.
Albeit my Kirby like oeuvre is very small. I haven't played like a ton of Kirby games.
So you collect gems in Epic Yarn, and I'm pretty sure there are like just some collectibles in some of these games. Whether or not they're always coins, I guess, is kind of open for debate. What constitutes a coin? But I think that the thing for me that has me most like, oh, okay, is that it's described as an action adventure game. And not an open world action adventure game. Open world is a phrase that usually does appear in ESRB ratings for open world games. And I know that was a subject of conversation when the game was initially teased during the Nintendo Direct. Or I guess not even teased, but we got this whole trailer. Because it looked like it could be a very open game.
But I feel like there's an important distinction between like an open world game and a Mario Odyssey-esque game, which I don't think is really considered open world because you go from like discrete level to discrete level. The levels themselves are very large and have lots of space for exploration, but it's not really an open world game. And so in my mind, that's what I was expecting.
That's a good point.
Or that is what I'm expecting Kirby and the Forgotten Land to be based off of. Like, I think that's fair that it's not like a completely open world like Hyrule and Breath of the Wild. I'm thinking it's more like, oh, and I'll like enter this level, and this level is like has a large expanse of space for me to explore.
See, I'm still even imagining that those worlds will be less open and more Super Mario 3D World-esque.
Oh, got it.
Is sort of where I'm seeing it right now.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like there's a lot of the camera is in like a single position and not a lot of just like camera rotating around Kirby.
Yeah.
So that's my expectation for this game.
That's a good point. Maybe like Mario Galaxy-esque.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am curious to see what Kirby and the Forgotten Land ends up being. They obviously have not, like in any of the PR or anything been like, it's a brand new Kirby, like they're not talking about reinvention, but that is, I feel like the general sense or what has people buzzing about the game is that it seems like a different type of Kirby game that we had recently.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but have they said very much about this game at all, or have we really just seen the trailer?
I mean, you said, it was a reveal, but still more of a teaser than anything.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really know, and they haven't talked about the mechanics. We're still waiting for the big blowout on what this game is. We've just seen like a little tantalizing tease at this point.
And it's like, it's important to remember that like there are so many Nintendo games that we get like an initial like a trailer for, and then it's not until they like blow it out that like the shape of the game even really comes into focus. Like, do you remember the first time we saw Cappy in Mario Odyssey? Because that wasn't part of like the initial reveal. We didn't know what Mario Odyssey was, and like holding Cappy until
I mean, we did get in the
I guess we just saw the
January
eyes.
tease. You saw like, oh, like that hat is possessed. Mario's hat is possessed.
Right.
But you're right. We didn't see like the capture mechanic. We didn't see like any of that stuff until way later.
Right. And that the capture mechanic is, I guess you're right that it was specifically the capture mechanic and not Cappy. But like we just had no idea what the moment to moment experience of playing that game even was.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that is still where we are with Kirby, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's such a good point. We really know a lot of what I think I know about this game is pure speculation and like internet rumor mongering.
Which
my
is
favorite
fun.
kind.
It's fun.
Like, don't get me wrong.
Fun.
But the fact that this has been rated by the ESRB, and that it's supposed to release in spring 2022 makes me think this might be like an earlier 2022 release, like March.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when Star Allies came out, was like the March timeframe.
Yeah, I want to even say February. We don't have a revised date for Advance Wars yet.
So
there was like
in
a
the
leak,
eShop,
right?
In the eShop right now, if you, in the US eShop, if you go to coming soon, Advance Wars is listed as like April 9th or something like that.
Okay,
which
so
is like
kind of late.
Yeah, like they haven't announced that, but that's just where it is. And it lined up, it's like a Friday and all that kind of stuff.
Right, and it's not like the end of a quarter or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so that seemingly is where it's going to release. So yeah, there does seem like there's a little bit of space in there for something like Kirby.
It's just interesting to have like mainline Nintendo releases sort of like leapfrog each other. That like we were expecting there to be Advance Wars and then Kirby, and now it's like, well, no, now it'll be Kirby and then Advance Wars.
Yeah.
Unless it too gets delayed.
We haven't discussed this on the show, but the release of Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy, the definitive edition, has been a bit of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
This past week, Rockstar Games issued a statement apologizing for the state of it. The first part is a little bit hilarious to me. It goes, quote, "We want to provide an update regarding the unexpected technical issues that came to light as part of the launch of Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy, definitive edition." I guess it's really a matter of like who they're unexpected to. Like, we're sorry, like these unexpected for you
that
issues.
You
because,
did not expect these issues? Yeah.
Because there's no way it was unexpected to them.
Right. Like they have people QA these things. Yeah, and like a lot of the I mean there are some things that are just sort of like general problems with like emulation and bringing games forward from like older versions where like they were relying on like fog effects or whatever,
right?
Or like just whatever happens when you increase draw distances because you can, and the game was never designed to do that. So like that's one thing, and that's like sort of a series of aesthetic choices, and so they can revisit that and be like, okay, we made the wrong aesthetic choice. We can address that somehow. But there are also just like crazy things happening. Did you see this glitch where there was like a face appearing in a wall? Did you see this thing?
No.
It's like someone in a boat by the harbor, and like if you were approaching a wall from like a specific angle, like you would see a face like that was just like mapped onto the wall. It's outrageous.
Yeah, apparently when they in the original release of the PC versions of this definitive edition, like it had all of the licensed music that they couldn't include because they didn't renew the license.
Yeah,
the files were all still in there. They'd just been like commented out in the code.
Yeah,
like the stuff for that like hot coffee thing.
Yeah, sure,
was in there. Like all that stuff. Like internal notes on the source code. Like it was all there, and so they ended up taking the releases down. They were unplayable for a couple of days, and then they came back. Like it's just been just like a real big mess. I'm not going to read the whole statement, but like the TLDR version is that they're going to be releasing updates to address the bugs, and that they also ask people to stop harassing the development staff, which is good.
Stop
and like
harassing development staff.
And it's so sad to me that has to be in an official statement from Rockstar Games, because it must be pretty bad for it to get to that level.
Yeah.
But Rockstar is going to be. They also, in a kind of slimy move, like Rockstar removed the classic versions from the PC game stores before these were released, so everybody had to pay, the $60
right, to
play
the
them
new
again.
versions, right?
So they said that they're going to bring back the classic versions sometime in the future in a new bundle only on the Rockstar Games Store. And if you bought this definitive edition trilogy from Rockstar Games, from the Rockstar Games Store, then you'll get the classics versions for free automatically when they come back, which that's a nice gesture.
Yeah, I mean, a pretty good gesture, and it's nice that it seems like they're going to try to make good on the various ways that they screwed up these remasters. But it's also the unexpected, what is it? Unexpected technical issues is baffling.
It's just funny because it's again, this is a one for the books. The great moments in copywriting where you're like, the way that it's written is like, they can have it both ways.
Yeah.
Where if somebody calls them out on that wording, like, were they unexpected to you? They can be like, no, we meant it. It was like
that you didn't expect it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if you expected it, you wouldn't have purchased it.
But exactly. But the way it's written,
right.
It sounds like they're like, where did these technical issues come from? They were unexpected to us too.
I mean, the thing that I find so like kind of baffling about this is that like each of these games is huge, right?
Right.
Like, and they're older games, so like they're huge on like a different scale to games that are released now. But there are 3 of them in this collection, and it just makes me wonder like how much they like committed to like the resources to port these games over. Like it's no small feat to bring over any game from one platform to another. But it's an enormous feat to port 3 games over from like 2 generations ago.
I think, to multiple systems.
Yeah.
Um,
And to be presenting them as remastered,
Yeah.
right? Like when we got the Mario 3D All Stars, they were not claiming that those were remastered, and they were not, right? And that was a pretty bare bones package. And like you can criticize like, the emulation here and there, but like they are like more or less faithful recreations of what those games were. And the fact that like this can't even be that, I don't know. It just it all feels very strange.
yeah, and totally at the feet of Rockstar, because
Yes.
you absolutely could have delayed it, but just wanted to get those holiday sales.
Yeah, I mean Grand Theft Auto 5 is like the most successful entertainment thing in existence.
Didn't we just do this with Cyberpunk like last year?
Yeah. Yeah, we just did it with Cyberpunk, and it's the same story too,
Yeah.
of like The Witcher 3 and Grand Theft Auto 5 being like the biggest things on multiple platforms, multiple generations spanning. Witcher 3 not quite to the same degree as GTA 5, but still it's so big and such high prestige studios that it's wild to see them put out something that like is just this crummy and broken.
A couple of weeks ago, or honestly maybe last week, we discussed a quote from Masahiro Sakurai saying that for now he doesn't see a path for Smash Brothers without him.
Yeah.
Nintendo Everything has posted a full translation of the Famitsu interview where that quote came from, and the bulk of it is talking about each individual DLC character, and they ask about it, and Sakurai gives a little bit of the history of the development of it, and it's really, really interesting. At the end, they talk about like the future of Smash Brothers, and that's where that quote comes from. The whole thing is like 5,000 words. I really recommend that people go to Nintendo Everything to check it out. We'll put a link in the show notes. So these are just a couple of like anecdotes that stood out to me that I thought were interesting. Speaking of Banjo and Kazooie's trailer riffing on the King K. Rool reveal.
So just to catch up, the reveal of King K. Rool, who was like a fan favorite, was like Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong like hanging out, and then there was like a noise outside, and we got trolled right by no, that's was it later? Which one had Duck Hunt in it?
Yeah, I think it was the first one, and then it turns out, or
no, maybe not. So I don't remember.
Yeah.
The point is, it was a Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong like hanging out, and then here comes King K. Rool, and in the which was a huge like fan favorite reveal, like a character that they've been waiting for forever, and then to reveal Banjo and Kazooie, they did like the same setup and showed a sort of bear-like shape with bird-like wings behind it, and then we're like, no, it's just the Duck Hunt dog and duck, and then no, actually it is in fact Banjo and Kazooie.
That's right. And so Sakurai says, yeah, we did use the same gag again. It wasn't just about making it funny, but also about keeping production costs down.
Smart.
Making those reveal trailers really does cost a lot. It was certainly far more of a task than everyone imagined. Besides keeping the highlight of the scene great, we wanted to keep the cost down as much as possible. Coming up with ingenious ways to do that is the crux of making these kinds of movies. In any case, the price of our DLC for a fighter, stage, and tunes comes out to only 666 yen, tax included.
Wow.
This interview is really funny to me because it does get in the way that he does in this quote here. Sakurai constantly talks about like we had a budget. We didn't have a lot of time. We didn't have a lot of money. Like it was, like stressful. We had to be really creative in how we solve these problems. And you just assume that with like Smash Brothers, with a game that big, that like they get whatever they need. They get the time that they need. They get whatever money they ask for, So it's just interesting how much he reiterates, where it's like, we were on a budget. We, had to be creative in the ways that we like did these sorts of things because we were just always looking for ways to save money.
It is so funny, and obviously we've been in an era now for a while where DLC characters for fighting games are sort of common. But like I don't know that anyone's really landed on like what a new character is worth. You
Right.
know, like or like how many characters should be in a game, and obviously something like Smash Brothers like sort of obliterates whatever math you could have in there because it starts with like 70 characters. Yeah, so it's funny that he like loops back around to, and it only costs you whatever it is $6
Yeah.
US, which I don't know. Do you think that's a good deal?
Yeah, I
I,
guess
it's
so.
impossible to say.
I feel like with all the DLCs, um, yeah, it's so like, what do you compare it against? I guess like other
Totally.
DLC. It really just comes down to like, is it worth it to you? And I do feel like for the most part, like the fighters plus the stage plus all the music, it's a pretty good package to
Yeah,
a lot of people. But you just have to
yeah.
really like be into it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
you do. I mean, there's some aspect of where you're like, okay, you get another level, and you're like, but I've got 90 whatever levels already.
Right.
You know, like there is like a real part of it where it's like having another one doesn't really make the game more valuable. But I'm totally happy to have basically paid for the game twice to get 11 extra characters and 11 extra stages. Like when you put all of the information together, then it feels like it's worth it. But like saying that, and I guess I don't think I would buy them individually, even though it's a difference of like $1 per character or something like that. So I don't know. I'm talking around in circles right
No,
now.
I agree with you. I mean, I feel like it's when you really like start thinking about it, it just gets into a broader thing where you're like, well, how much is a video game worth? Because
Yeah.
we're so used to spending $60 in the US for like a new video game, and now it's beginning to become like 70. So you're like, wow, like $70 is a lot, but I usually spend a lot of, even like a good game is worth it, even if you're playing it for 7 hours. That's only $10 an hour. That's not that bad. Like doing all of that like
Right.
gymnastics, it gets really complicated.
Right. Like for example, Final Fantasy VII remake. Spent $60 for that game when it came out. It transferred perfectly over to my PlayStation 5. I played it for like 20 hours before. I've played it for about another 40 plus hours now. I played it for over 60 hours. It's $1 an hour. Like, what other like entertainment thing do I have that I spent $1 an hour on? Like
Yeah.
nothing, you know?
Yeah.
Also, $60, that's like a one night out for dinner or something. Like if you have a drink, like that's it. So yeah, all of these things, it's like, yeah, I guess pay what they're asking if you want to play with the stuff. I don't know.
Well, speaking of budgeting, Famitsu asked Sakurai about how these like Sakurai Presents presentations came to be. And Sakurai says, quote, "At first, when we decided to start making a variety of DLC, the plan was to make a lot of fighters that had unique systems. That would require a more detailed explanation for players on the fighters' properties. But if we put an explanation in the game or on the website, it would be likely that not many people would see it. We considered what the best method would be and reached the conclusion that it was video, the biggest form of media right now. The first one we made was the 3.0 update introduction video that introduced Joker, but that took a lot of work. There was no end to the video production and editing we had to get done. If we had kept making them like that, we wouldn't have had quite enough budget." There you go again. Upon examining what a less costly method would be, someone in charge at Nintendo said, "Wouldn't it be best to have Sakurai present? Basically, will you be a YouTuber?" I agreed that there was no other option. Even within the program, I said multiple times that we didn't have the budget, and I wasn't kidding. We really didn't have enough time, money, or work capacity. That's why we decided it would be best if I just put the game on a screen in front of me and did a relaxed presentation with a controller in my hands.
Okay, so this is another one of those things
love
where
it.
I love it too, but like you can't teach someone how to do that. Like, why does it have to be? Why does it have to be you, the game director, every time?
So I did not put this in there.
Yeah.
But basically, when he's elaborating on, like why it would be so difficult to do a Smash Brothers without him, and he talks about how like there is nobody who knows how to like start it from scratch.
Sure.
There is nobody who just has the learned experience that he has of like the 20 years of Super Smash Brother. And so I think, like in a wiki or something, you can document some of the like mechanical parts of it, but I think there is just like learned, like institutional knowledge that lives
Yeah.
within Sakurai
In his bones.
that is just difficult, to like pass on, to somebody in a clean, like easy way. It's not like there's like a written like encyclopedia that he can just hand off.
But it's just, it's like the formula for Coca-Cola. It's not just one person who knows it, like you need to share that knowledge, Sakurai.
I mean, I do think it's so funny that like Sakurai is so busy. He does so much stuff. And I just love the way he puts it where he's just like, someone at Nintendo was like, let's just have Sakurai do it.
Yeah, which is probably just like the story of his whole career, right? Like,
Right.
let's just have Sakurai do it.
Yeah.
And then he's dying of exhaustion, hooked up to an IV at his desk.
I also wanted to talk about specifically Byleth, the character from Fire Emblem Three Houses that's in the game. And I thought this was interesting. So Sakurai says, quote, "At the time of development, Fire Emblem Three Houses had yet to be released. But without knowing the game's contents, we couldn't make a fighter, so we asked the game's team for a summary. However, in conversation alone, we had no idea what they meant. When I heard there are 3 houses and the battles are fought in a futuristic way, there was no way for me to imagine what that meant."
Hold on a second, just jumping in here. Someone who was explaining Fire Emblem Three Houses to Masahiro Sakurai said they fight in a futuristic way.
I wonder if this is something that was like lost in translation.
Oh, sure, because there is like an early period and a future period.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So during development, we borrowed a ROM and played it as we went, which presented its own problems. We were using a debug version, but even so, working through all 3 stories took a lot of time. However, I know he talks in this about like for Minecraft and stuff, like he truly immerses himself in these games. Like he plays, in addition to directing and like being such a main part of the development of Smash Brothers, he is also
a
really
fan of all
doing
these
deep
games.
dives
Yeah.
into all, and I don't even know if he's a fan. Like, but he no,
Yeah,
seriously,
sure, you're
like
right,
I don't
you're
even know
right.
if he's a fan. But like Minecraft gets handed down, being like, this is a DLC character. He like it's not surface level,
Yeah.
like cursory playing of it. Like he really like digs into it. It's so crazy to me. Just saying. So to continue. So during development, we borrowed a ROM and played as we went, which presented its own problems. We were using a debug version, and even so, working through all 3 stories took a lot of time. However, of course, at that time, everything was still top secret, so we couldn't take it home or show it to others in the company. So instead, we would need to play secretly during work hours without anyone else seeing, which was pretty difficult.
I mean, that's classic Nintendo, right? Of like guarding the secrecy above everything else.
Yeah. And you would think that like the people anybody working on Smash Brothers, which itself is guarded so much with secrecy,
Right.
Like, why not let everybody just see 3 houses? You know what I mean? And just tell them, hey, you can't talk about this. But no, they were like double secret.
Loose lips, man. I mean, they gotta. they look. People aren't gonna jeopardize their job working on Smash Brothers by leaking about Smash Brothers. But you can leak about 3 houses. Who's gonna trace that back to you? There's a whole team developing this game.
Working on that.
Yep.
I really recommend this. Checking out this interview on Nintendo Everything. They go through every single downloadable character. It's except for Piranha Plant, so worth checking out.
I feel like he's considered part of the main roster, right?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
But like I said, we'll put a link to this in the show notes. And then finally, VGC published a feature celebrating the 20th anniversary of the GameCube that's filled with interviews with people involved in launching the console. It's really good and covers too much ground for me to try to like pull pieces out or try to summarize here. So we'll also link to it in the show notes. I also really recommend you check it out. It's a really interesting read.
Yeah, and we are planning a future conversation about the GameCube more generally. So we'll both probably be reflecting on our experiences with it when it came out at that time. All right, Mark, let's close out the news. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts if you like the episode. You can share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. We will give you a shout out. You heard it happen today. We also have check us out on Twitter. I apologize. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nincart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com. or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying sometimes we repeat gags to keep the production costs down. And thank you for listening.
I'm Brian Husky. I'm bald.
And I'm Charlie Sanders, and I'm also bald. And we host Bald Talk on the Campfire Media Network.
Bald Talk is the podcast where two bald comedians talk to anyone bald about being bald.
But this show isn't just for baldies, Brian. Harrows will love it too.
Bald Talk gets into vulnerability, vanity, insecurity, and self-acceptance, reminding us that we all have our respective bald spots. Not that bald spots are a bad thing.
No way. I mean, my entire head is one big bald spot.
It is one huge, beautiful bald spot, Charlie.
Get Bald Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
I mean, I have like a little bit of hair, but not like you. Like, you're really bald.
I'm truly bald.
Great. I mean, it's
I'm
great.
balder than you.
You are balder than me.
Only on Bald Talk. Campfire.